Alright everybody, brush up on your Hansel and Gretel and reassure Wes Craven that he'll get it right with Scream even if he messes it up here. Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are looking at the NECA Cult Classics Wave 2 or Cult Classics Hall of Fame Wave 1 Freddy Krueger figure from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, I really don't know which version of the figure I have. NECA did a lot of re-releases and I'm inclined to think this is probably the latter release, but I really have no way of knowing. But either way, the original sculpt of this figure, the original release, came very early on in NECA's Cult Classics line. It was one of the first figures they did, and it was one of the first Freddys I think they ever did. Definitely kind of an odd choice to go with, because the movie definitely was far enough in the past when they did this figure that I would think that the temptation to go older would have been more prevalent, but let's take a look and see what we got here. And you gotta give it to NECA, their old figures came with some great display bases. Freddy comes with kind of the temple ruins from the end of the film. So we have the stone floor that's all broken up, rubble all over the place, the eels slithering around the base. These are a soft rubber, which I forgot until I touched them and they started slithering, which was kind of creepy in a weird way. Bottom's kind of hollow. Copyright 2005. So if that tells you which version of this I have, let me know. I'm not really sure. And then we have this stone column in the back. This is removable. It pegs into the base, but without it, the base looks kind of stupid. But I guess if you just want a stone column for a photo shoot or something, you have it. But that pegs right on there. And I love the detail on here. It really does look like stone. It's all crumbled away. Some great texture and paint on it. And it's got a peg right here, and you'll definitely be wanting this to keep Freddy from toppling over because his pose is a little weird. Freddy also comes with a copy of the script. And how weird is that? How many action figures come with the script to its own movie? But when we take a look here, it actually does have lines from New Nightmare. It actually has the script, which is really neat. Legible on this, and for being such a small little book, that's very impressive. This is a hard plastic. There's no bending it. There's obviously just the one page to read, but still a very nice accessory. As for Freddy, I think NECA did a great job on it. It looks really, really cool. I'm not a huge fan of the makeup from New Nightmare. The aesthetic in general for Freddy, I think, was a little odd, but they did a decent job here. The face looks more like a normal face with just these big open sores on it. From what I've read, this is kind of what the original concept for Freddy was before they refined it with the pizza face. Yes, this green fedora for this one. It's a hard plastic, unlike the newer ones, but it is removable. You can see more detail on his head here. Some good paint, some good shading inside the cuts and the burnt areas on his head. Even details like the eyes and the teeth I think are very clean and very well done. The neck itself doesn't really have much in the way of scarring, which is pretty true to the makeup as well, but it does look a little strange, but I think that was also a virtue of the actual on-film makeup. Torso of Freddy, it's kind of backwards. We have the green sweater with these red stripes that are kind of almost stitched or stuck onto the green, so it's not one continuous sweater pattern. These are raised up areas in the sculpt, and the downward weave of the sweater is also sculpted in, which is pretty nice. There's a little paint error here. You can see the green bleeding onto the red, but not too bad. He has his jacket, which is a rubberized piece. You look on the inside, it has the red and green stripes. On the outside, it's a nice black with a wash to kind of make it dirty looking. It's got the little flap in the back. It's got the split down the middle. Looks really good. His sleeves are sculpted to just look like the jacket sleeves, but these are hard plastic. His left hand is definitely all scarred up and torn up. I'm not sure if this looks great. There's definitely some kind of globby looking fingers, but I am also zoomed in pretty far on the hand. Those aren't details you would normally really pick out, but it's still nicely done. And I really like the gloved hand. I'm not a huge fan of the kind of flesh claw thing they had going on, the 5-fingered blade, but I think NECA pulled off the sculpt really well. The paint on it looks great, mixing the kind of silvery bits with bone and the flesh underneath. It's definitely scary looking, if nothing else. We have Freddy's leather pants going on here, which do look nice and shiny like they did in the movie. And we got his big kind of Vietnam jungle boots, or his goth boots going on here, but they work. They're well sculpted. There could have been a little more paint on them. They just kind of fade into the same shiny black plastic the legs are. Probably all just molded out of one color plastic, but they work. And as you can see, his front foot is flat and his back foot is raised up, which is why you're going to want to use that stand so he doesn't fall over. Now there is one other accessory accessory Freddy came with, and I don't have it, and if what I'm seeing in picture form is correct, it would have told me which version of this figure I have. It appears that the original release came with two different expressions of this normal head, and I only have the one. This is one of those figures I mentioned on our previous Freddy figure that I bought a bunch of figures off the Mezco forums for like $5 a pop, filled in a lot of blanks in my collection, and when it came down to it, small missing accessories weren't something I was super worried about. So I'm either missing another version of Freddy's head if it was the original release, or if it was the Hall of Fame release, I'm missing the demon head. And the demon head, I had thought at one point it wasn't actually released, but I've seen video reviews of it, and it is just the monster head that he has for a moment there in the film, and I kind of would have liked to have that one, but it's not a huge deal. For articulation, he has a ball joint at the neck, so he can look up and down, turn side to side, tilt, all that good stuff. A pretty good range of motion there. He has pin and socket shoulders, so he can get out to the side a decent amount, forward and back. These are those kind of old school NECA shoulders that are infamously brittle. I've talked about it on a few other releases, specifically my Michael Myers figure. I have broken shoulders, so I'm very careful with these. He has a swivel in the elbow cut joint. It's at that angle, so you can kind of extend the arm out or bend it in based on how you allow that swivel to line up. Both arms feature that. He has a cut joint at the wrist on both hands, so you can rotate the hand. He has a cut joint at the waist, and then a cut joint at the top of each boot, which is kind of awkward because the one leg is angled, so it's rotating on an axis as opposed to straight up and down with his front leg. So overall, I think this is a decent incarnation of the new Nightmare Freddy. As I said before, it's not a character design that I really like. I heard a theory once that if you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan and you watch Freddy vs. Jason and New Nightmare, you're probably going to really like one and really not like the other one. Not necessarily that you don't like one of the films, but just that you highly prefer one to the other. And I think it's a pretty good theory, and I think it kind of shows what kind of fan you are and where your tastes lie within the movies. Me? I'm a Freddy vs. Jason guy. But I think NECA really did a good job on this figure. The sculpt is beautiful, the base is very well done, and I don't think you could ask for much more except for some better articulation. I really don't think NECA's ever going to make it back here in their Freddy Krueger line. I don't think this version of the character would sell particularly well these days, but I'm happy to have it in my collection, if nothing else than to just round out my Freddy collection, except I don't own a Freddy vs. Jason Freddy figure. I was really hoping NECA would get around to redoing that, but I guess I'm gonna have to go track down that box set. But I do definitely recommend this figure. Check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also follow me on Facebook, link below, and until next time, this has been another Outside the Box Reviews, and I'll see you in your nightmares.